Hi students, Assalamu alaikum. This is Wahid Yusuf, your English teacher with another video lecture on the topic a relative class. In the previous lecture, that was lecture 1 of a relative class, we discussed class, what is class, we discussed that, and we discussed types of class, that is dependent and independent class. Independent or dependent class, that is also called as subordinate class. And then we discussed this relative class as well, because a relative class is one of the dependent classes, one of the subordinate classes. So today, in today's lecture, we'll discuss a relative class with respect to its types. It has two types, we'll discuss them, and after that we'll come to its usage, how relative class is sometimes talks about subject, sometimes talks about object, sometimes shows a possession. So we'll discuss that after that. But before that, we'll discuss the types of relative class. See, we have defining relative class and we have non-defining relative class. Defining relative class and non-defining relative class, we can call it DRC, defining relative class. See, defining relative class tells us which noun we are talking about. So as far as defining relative class is concerned, defining relative class tells us which noun we are talking about from a large group of nouns. For example, we have a sentence, there are two, three nouns, and there are some persons, some things, but this defining relative class, it tells us which noun we are talking about from a group of nouns, from a larger group of people, from a larger group of things. It tells us which noun we are talking about from a larger group of nouns, from a larger group of people, larger group of things. And one more thing, if we remove defining a relative class from the sentence, the meaning will be affected. The meaning of that sentence will be affected. So defining relative class, that relative class which talks about which noun we are talking about from a larger group of nouns, from a larger group of people or things. And if we remove this class from the sentence, the meaning will definitely be affected. Now, non-defining relative class. See, as far as defining relative class is that class which tells us about which noun we are talking. And if we remove that class from the sentence, the meaning of the sentence is changed. Or affected. And now, non-defining relative class. See, non-defining relative class is that class which gives more information about the noun. So, non-defining relative class, it talks about a noun, but it is not an essential information. it is some extra information. It is also known as essential clause. And second one, this is now also known as non-essential relative clause. Non-essential relative clause. So this first clause, that is essential information. That is essential information. Essential information, why? Because if we remove that, the meaning of the sentence changes. And non-defining relative clause, it is non-essential information. It is non-essential information. It is extra information. It is more information. So which gives extra information, more information about the noun. About the noun. That means if we remove that, there is no change in the meaning of the sentence. There is no change in the meaning of the sentence. So if we write, if we remove it, the meaning of the sentence is not changed or effective. So two clauses we discussed. First one, defining relative clause. That clause which tells us which noun we are talking about. Which noun we are talking about. And if we remove that, the meaning of the sentence is changed, because that is essential. That clause is essential for the sentence. That clause is essential for the sentence. Non-essential or non-defining relative clause, if we remove that, it is a clause which gives extra information about the noun. And if we remove that, the meaning of the sentence does not change. The meaning of the sentence does not change. I'll write some examples now. We'll see how these examples work, and then we'll come to the usage of these relative clauses. See, okay, I shall make it like this. Sorry, house. See, in the first example is the example of, one second, the example of defining relative clause. It is the example of defining relative clause. It is the example of defining relative clause. See, I am looking for an assistant. I am looking for an assistant. This part is defining relative clause. This part is defining relative clause. This, who can operate a computer? Who can operate a computer? So the sentence is, I am looking for an assistant who can operate a computer. So this clause, who can operate a computer, it is essential, because we don't know what kind of assistant I am looking for. We don't know what kind of assistant I am looking for if we don't mention his work, if we don't mention his work. So this clause, it talks about this assistant. It talks about this assistant, and it talks about this noun, that what kind of qualities, what kind of potential he must possess. So he should operate a computer. So that kind of assistant I am looking for. So this is defining relative clause. So if we remove this, if we remove this part, so it will become, I'm looking for an assistant. But we never know what kind of assistant. So this is what is known as essential clause. What is known as defining relative clause. And second, the house which has been empty for many years, costs 20 lakh. For example, you are going to buy a house. So you will be told that the house costs 20 lakhs. So this is essential extra information. One, the house costs 20 lakhs. It is done. The sentence is this: the house costs 20 lakhs. But this is extra information that it has been empty for 20 years. So this is extra information and this is essential information. And this is the difference between a relative clause and defining relative clause and non-defining relative clause. See, I have made a table here. See, these are the relative clauses, or we can say pronouns which we use. Relative pronouns which we use. See, in relative clauses, these are for persons and things, animals, etc. So these are for persons. Who and that is used for persons. For example, I know a man who is a teacher. So this who has been used for a person. See, who and that is used for persons when the persons are subjects. Who and that is used for persons when they are objects. Like here, I know a man. Man is an object here. And we place it this who, or we can place that. Who is a teacher? That is a teacher. So who and that is used as used for persons when the persons are subjects. Who and that is also used for persons when the persons are objects. And whose is used for persons when the persons are show possession. When some things show possession, when the person's possession is there. And as far as things are concerned, which are that for things as subjects, which are that for things as objects, and whose as possession. And see, as far as defining relative clauses are concerned, all these pronouns are used. But as far as non-defining relative clauses are used, this that is not used here. That is not used here. That and that, they are not used for persons in non-defining relative clause. Sorry, they are not used for things or animals in non-defining relative clause. That and that. Otherwise, all these are used in relative clauses. In defining relative clauses, all these pronouns are used. But as far as non-defining relative clauses are used, that in subjective form and that in objective form. That they are not used in non-defining relative clause, neither for subjects nor for objects as far as things or animals are concerned. If you don't understand this table, it is okay, because we are going to do a bit of exercise and you will get to know how these pronouns are used. So this is all for today, and I would continue, but it will take a little bit more time. So inshallah, tomorrow in next lecture, we'll discuss all these pronouns. One by one. We'll use them for subjects. We'll use them for objects. We'll use them to show possession. We'll use them for persons. We'll use them for things. And we'll use the relative clause immediately after the subject. We'll use the relative clause after the object. And we'll do all the exercises in the coming class. And till then, I wish you would watch it and you will understand it in a better way, because I have made it simple. It is the simplest way of teaching these relative classes to you people. So till then, have a nice day and Allah Hafiz.